Hello, everyone. How are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Brown Dwarf. Welcome, Darina. Norma, welcome. Great to see you. Fidel, Brooke, so wonderful to see you. Hank, welcome. SF, hi, G, beautiful Oracle transformation. Hello, much love to you. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad to catch you guys live. I'm trying something new today, and I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm trying to go live on Instagram. I tried a new stream that they were giving me some keys to be able to do it, but I don't know if it's working. So if you guys are Instagram and you see it, let me know. I don't know. Okay, it's okay. All right. Welcome, love, love, love. Welcome, Christine, Lee. Welcome. All right, guys. So we are down to day 25. We only have 5 more days to go of this challenge. And boy, do we have a lot in store for this week. Today, we're going to be discussing primordial life force. And we are getting, again, into the root aspects of this alchemical work that we want to do here. The transmutation of the life force from its lowest form into its highest expression. And during this challenge, we'd take a look at many different aspects: the psycho-emotional, somatic, physical, electromagnetic, energetic of the body. And we're coming down to learning the techniques of how to actually work with this life force. How do we begin to utilize that life force in a way that allows us to come into a stage of absolute empowerment and transmutation? And we're going to take a look at essentially what it means to utilize this life force. When we talk about primordial life force, we're talking about the life force, the source life force that runs through our body, through the source cord that runs through the center core of the body, the center meridian of the body, and that nourishes the sexual organs that create the life force that creates life, essentially. And both of these energies, in both the feminine and masculine, the seed and the egg, or I should say, the sperm and the egg, essentially, when they unite, creates an incredible explosion of life force. And this creates this incredible life force vortex that allows a soul to link and connect into this core essence. This process alone is a combination of the intention that is set within each one of these two genetic substances, which is the sperm and the egg. And the way that we cultivate, just like everything in our bodies is in a sense programmable, and we can edit and clear, nourish, activate, deactivate in our physical bodies, all because we work and we are a projection of a core blueprint, the holographic DNA, our DNA, which then projects into this physical body that produces the protein that creates the physical, is embedded and encoded with ancestral lineages and information about behavioral patterns, emotional patterns, energetic patterns, um, access to multidimensional aspects of ourselves that we have been cycling through past lives, generations, through our ancestral lineages, and also our simultaneous aspects of ourselves that exist, our multidimensional selves. So all of this information makes up the core data that projects into this physical vessel that we then navigate the physical realm with. And from the time of birth from the time of the womb, of conception, we are choosing through the environment and through the subconscious interactions in this organic substance, navigating and choosing carefully how we are activating and deactivating certain aspects of our code. The more that we come into awareness and empowerment, which means the more integration we embody, the more we become one, the more we embody unconditional love, we create an environment for higher octaves of vibrational frequency, access to higher dimensional levels, and also it allows us to become one as ourself expands into its full expression as the whole. And to become whole essentially means that our perspective shifts from this little human life with all of its human experiences and transcends and continues to transcend until it becomes all. So it's very important to remember this in this process, because what that means and how we access the information that we're able to access through our DNA depends on two things. It depends on the two parents that are coming together to create the life. It depends on the cultivation of their life force, the level of vibrational frequency that they hold within them. And it also depends on the soul that is in alignment, in resonance with this ancestral bloodline. And the moment that the union between the two parents occurs in order to create to conceive life, there is an agreement that is made through vibrational frequency. That agreement is an encoding of vibrational information that allows for an experiential agreement for everyone involved. All of the souls that come and are connected to the ancestral lineage, and the soul that's coming in. Essentially, the soul that's coming in is choosing how they are going to access data through their DNA, through their ascension or their possible potential. So when I say ascension, I'm really talking about the natural cycles that this entire universe is moving at naturally. Nothing has to be done for us to ascend, because it's a natural mechanism of the existence in which we live. It's the natural movement of this organism. It is ascending because it is constantly moving to higher octaves as we collectively evolve. However, the organisms that make up this universe apply by laws of free will, in which each organism gets to choose whether they wish to experience that alignment with the ascension or whether they wish to repeat. So the two options are to align in ascension, which means that the organism continues to raise its frequency in order to match the future potential timelines that are available through higher frequency, or the organism chooses to dissolve by matching lower past. There is no linear timeline. These are simultaneous timelines, but essentially when I refer to past, I'm talking about densities, denser densities of vibrational frequencies and dimensional expressions. So when we are counter creating, we are matching with these more dense existences that are more crystallized in the physical, that allow the human to experience very much through the sense body, essentially the matrix, through trauma, through experiences. Everything is felt through the physical. So as the human makes these two choices for their experiential agreements while being incarnated on Earth, there is an agreement that is also being made with the entire ancestral lineage. And the agreement that each human or each organism that makes when they come into an ancestral lineage is whether they will sustain the vibrational frequency for that bloodline, repeating patterns, or breaking those patterns. So each generation that creates new life and brings in new souls into this earth plane are encoded with a vibrational frequency, which means that they have certain amount of DNA that is activated, that is equipped with everything that they need access to multidimensionally. So in other words, whether they remember their Arcturian selves, Pleiadian selves or not, and how that will assist them in their experience while incarnating through the patterns of this ancestral bloodline. Every single ancestral bloodline is cultivated by the repetition of their programs. In the same way that we used to preserve bloodlines by ideally preserving the purity of bloodlines, by keeping families within families, this was a way of strengthening genetic programming in a bloodline. However, what we know is that biologically, this weakens the physical. So when we look at genetics and when we look at family lines that have been constantly breeding within the bloodline, so cousins with cousins, sisters with sisters, brothers with brothers, family members with family members, these unions strengthen and reinforce programs that are embedded in these bloodlines. And when these bloodlines are embedding unconscious counter creative programs, essentially the bloodline begins to deteriorate. Biologically, we end up having a lot of illnesses, immune systems, autoimmune diseases. The body begins to attack itself. Because again, these charges of vibrational frequency of these genetic lineages are counter creating. So they contrast with one another and essentially dissolve. However, the program that has been densely, it's like packing and repacking the same information into a folder. Okay, you keep putting the same information in a folder, that folder becomes really thick and really full of that information. It becomes dense, and it becomes oftentimes more difficult to break these ancestral patterns. So a lot of these bloodlines through history, through the many generations, which again, it's a simultaneous cycles. We are living through all of the ancestors that we've had are all existing within our non-linear simultaneous timelines that we can access, and we can access them through hypnosis or through meditation in order to access these patterns. We can actually reverse them, and we can also discover where in that lineage there has been mutations in the bloodline. Mutations are a product of alchemical transformation. Any time that a human alchemizes their life force, any time that a human breaks patterns in these lineages, they create mutations in the genetic lineage. Mutations meaning that DNA is activated more so than previous generations. So that allows for heightened level of intuition, heightened level of faculties, and the organism overall begins to have a faster spin. The organism comes into a high functioning, intuitive, healthy, vital organism. So it's the opposite of the counter creative patterns. So these individuals through your bloodline that have reached these height levels of awareness and cultivation essentially create a balance in the entire frequency of the whole. And some of you have been repeating these lives, reincarnating again, in order to have an opportunity to bring the entire lineage into higher octaves. Because we are one, because we are not separate, we don't come into the bloodline being separate from the beginning. We already are interconnected, not only with them, but all of our fractals interdimensionally with which are embedded into our genetic code. So what does it mean when we talk about alchemization and when we talk about the union process of conception of life? That all of this data that is copied down through the generations, through the mitochondria, is including emotional programming, basic subconscious programming patterns, muscle and nervous system patterns within the body, and physical output. So what is the physical system going to look like? So this information essentially is carried down through the generations that allow us to understand an organism as a whole. The way that the physical features are set up in the body speak to us about certain cycles, emotional, physical, the way that a certain body has a posture, stands up, speaks, expresses itself, interacts, holds their energy. All of these are expressions of belief systems and patterns. And a human can change that when they go in through an ascension process, activating their DNA. They begin to anchor higher octaves of these potential generations within their bloodline, within themselves. And these are transmitted directly at the time of conception to the next generation that is being created. This is incredibly important to understand because it takes procreation into a whole different level of understanding. When we are procreating, in order to sustain a matrix, what is matrix programming? It's everything that we believe within the matrix in order to continue to support these patterns, belief system patterns, emotional patterns, ancestral patterns, and essentially supporting the matrix from the inside out. You essentially become a participant of holding space in the matrix. Leaving the matrix, this is just a way of saying that when you begin to alchemize, when you begin to break patterns, when you begin to transcend these limiting beliefs and the way that you're moving and spinning your vortex into a higher octave, you literally begin to transform many aspects of yourself, biologically, electromagnetic, psychic, energetic, physical, and emotional in the body. All of these ranges of your expression begin to change in a way that assist you in embodying higher bands of frequency. And those higher bands of frequency essentially bring the body in its most optimum state. Okay, so our concepts of health and vitality and being young and changing from these concepts of aging, even the length of our telomeres begins to go into a different direction. And this is where we start to unlock the fountain of youth, where we begin to unlock the keys into activating higher wisdom, and we begin to connect into the 8th and 9th morphogenetic field that allow us to tune in to information that we can channel, okay, that allow us to support. So this is really important for the human to understand that when we are conceiving life, you are inheriting these patterns into the next generation. So a conscious conception would then be a parent that is now mindful that their life force is embedded not only with the potential of infinite potential, but also a limiting factor, this dualistic factor of infinite potential and its balance that maintain it in a whole. And the child, when they are born, when they come into the world, they get to choose constantly how they are going to activate or deactivate certain aspects of themselves. So when we talk about transmutation and working with primordial life force, you are utilizing, you are learning how to cultivate your life force, which means cultivate emotional awareness, create homeostasis in your body, which allows for a self-regulated nervous system, which allows for you to master and activate higher faculties, all your intuitive abilities. These main 4 elements of the multidimensional body are what can allow you to transcend and break away from these matrix programs and cyclical patterns. And the cultivation of life force is because the primordial life force is the most powerful. Now we're talking about the sexual energy, which is, the semen and the egg. These 2 energies are deeply encoded with genetic data. They have everything required to access every historical access that you have had multidimensionally and also terrestrially through your ancestral lineage is encoded in these 2 organic substances. So they are highly potent, but we can utilize this life force not only to procreate, but to co-create. How? Because this information is crystallized in its densest form as as an egg and a sperm, they are still in its densest form of creation. So our ability to manifest and co-create doesn't stop at the time of having conception. We can also utilize that sexual energy in order to take the life force from the seed and the egg and transmute it into spiritual energy, because it is the essence of your primordial core life force. And the way to do this, the way to work with this life force is through the, you can say, I don't want to use the word purification too much because it comes to an idea about purity. And when we think about purity, we think about impurity. And there's too many implications, religious and sin and separation concepts around that, unfortunately, that are deeply programmed. And I am not talking about that. I'm talking about the most natural, heightened, potent state of something. When I say the word pure, I'm talking about its most natural, highest alignment. So when we come into that most natural state of co-creation, we are able to activate this sexual energy in a way that it's not as dense. So whatever we are holding subconsciously in our programming and even in our emotional body, we are cultivating it here in the sexual energy center. The key to the human, for the human to process and come into higher states of evolution, health, and vitality, is by regenerating and utilizing the life force mindfully. And this is the case with all organic beings, because anytime that we begin to deplete life force in any way, whether we become entangled in parasitic relationships, whether our attention is never in the present moment, we are bleeding our life force. So anytime that we overuse emotions or we are inauthentic in our expression, we are bleeding our life force. So the difference between an individual that is counter-creating and creating is that they are mindful or they are not mindful. They are in hypnotic state, repeating patterns. So this would be two different ways of experiencing. And there's nothing wrong with either way. You can choose either one of those ways in which you wish to experience. But the way in which we transcend into higher octaves of co-creation and begin to have mastery over the physical matter is by activating and cultivating our higher faculties. And one of the ways to do this is by utilizing and redirecting our life force. When we're meditating and when we're healing, when we do shadow work, we're learning how to alchemize, redirecting our life force to co-create. When we are loving ourselves, we are learning how to cultivate our life force in order to co-create. So we're doing this in different ways. And now we are piecing all these pieces together because the sexual energy, this sexual primordial life force, is deeply encoded with everything that we are in this present moment, everything that you have addressed, healed, integrated, and everything that you haven't integrated is all encoded in that genetic code. You can't hide or run away from that pure emanation of yourself because it's your base code. And from that genetic data, an entire clone can be created from just small data of your DNA. So it doesn't take much. It's just within the cells of the body that we can create an entire clone. And it's within your DNA that you hold the key to the universe. Every single one of you, the key to the understanding that you are a fractal of infinite consciousness is by looking at your DNA, looking at your cellular structure, and what you're made up of. So your entire body is a reflection of the multiverse. You have within your body the multiverse, and you have access to your starseed lineages. You have access to ET, interdimensional aspects, angelic beings, dimensions from the first up into the whatever 122, 144 dimensional layers, from which you are all co-creating and actively working through. So our level of waking up is something that is progressive. It's evolutory in that we are continuously evolving. It never ends. The evolution process never ends, but the weight of how we manifest and co-create in the present moment depends on the dimension in which we are creating. And this three-dimensional realm is a physical realm. It's quite crystallized. Things are coming down to its most densest form, in which we are learning how to experience contrast. So the cultivation of your sexual energy essentially is what can assist you. And for men and women, it's different. For men, their main depletion of life force is through the sexual energy. For women, it's actually through the menstruation cycle. And this is interesting to understand. Anytime that the man depletes sexual energy, let's say through the use or misuse of that life force, the men becomes very tired. They can age quickly. They have aches and pains in the body, illnesses, imbalances, hair loss, hormonal imbalances. All of these things are a direct result of the loss of life force, of this primordial life force. For the feminine doesn't lose the life force through the orgasm, but they do lose the life force or through the sexual activity. It depends on the makeup of the individual, but they do deplete the life force through the menstruation. And so cultivation of sexual energy for the woman would also mean that they would learn how to control these menstrual cycles, almost as if you create a natural kind of contraceptive. In a sense, in both senses, that you are choosing consciously when you want to get pregnant, but also you are choosing how you release energy in a way that is mindful to maintain balance for the body. Because unfortunately, at this time, we are coming into a profound imbalance, and the hybridization program is what helped me understand this. If it wasn't for my participation in the hybridization program, I wouldn't understand all of this in the level that I do, because now you begin to understand why DNA is a currency of the past, present, and future multidimensionally. Okay, because it's within that primordial life force that is the essence of co-creation. And this is actually the gold that is being mined, supposedly, by these interdimensional beings and by any parasitic being, because with the primordial life force, you create more life. And the balances that maintain balance in this organism called the planet Earth, those that are competing or believe they're competing, they're not really competing, because there's always a natural order. But the ones that have mastery manipulation over the dormant ones are the ones that have the ability to manipulate and and overrun the programs of procreation, which is this direct sustainability of the matrix. This matrix cannot exist without continuous reincarnation. It doesn't mean the dimension won't exist, because this dimension is always about duality. But whether you experience in this timeline, in this dimensional plane, parasitism more so than not, depends on the organisms that are participating in the co-creation of this earth. So every single human being plays a role in either tipping the scales into a more parasitic world or a more enlightened co-creation. And the world is a direct reflection of each individual's imbalance. So we are going through a major global transformation now over the past 3 years that are directing us out of this imbalance of the patriarchal, um, in a sense patriarchal, but it is the imbalance. I don't really, it's not just patriarchal, it's the wounded masculine, really. Because when you go deep into the psychology of what that is, and when we look at our world around us, we are talking about the misuse and the abuse of power in relationship to the dormant, unconscious other or victim. And every person that plays a role in this dynamic has a responsibility to the role that they're playing. So that's why there are no really victims in anything, whether it's the parasitic game that's being played here or whether it's interdimensional hybridization program. It's up to us whether we cultivate our life force and our primordial life force more than anything, in order to become sovereign. And this is really coming down to the core roots of your existence as a human here on the earth, that when you cultivate your primordial life force, you do become sovereign, because so much of this matrix is designed around the manipulation of your sexual energy without your understanding. The entire marketing industry is the utilization of the manipulation of subconscious mind of man. And any time that the human has come into hypnosis by the patterns of frequency that are constantly being emitted through EMFs, through radio, through television, through technology, and even through one another, because we represent the matrix with everything that we do, say, and interact. So this, we basically hold each other in a dormant state. We suppress each other in a dormant state. So we need to really, when we think about waking up consciousness, this takes your level of awareness to a whole different level, because you have to take accountability for your participation. It's no more about just kind of cruising. And it really is damaging in the spiritual community, the idea that in order to come into this empowered, awakened state and sovereignty, we're going to get lost in delusions, illusions, and in the distractions that many things in our spiritual community do that are harmful, from not allowing the human to cultivate their own life force and become sovereign. So, any spiritual practice that pulls you away from your empowerment, your sovereignty, your mastery over your body, your mind, and your spirit, goes against nature. It goes against nature. Whether that's drugs, whether that's ayahuasca, whether those are whatever it is, anything that pulls you away, whether it's deities or gods, anything that takes your power away from you yourself, alchemizing and activating into these higher dimensional ways in an organic, interconnected bioelectrical, biochemical process in your body, is not allowing you to reach those levels. It's okay to use them as tools wisely in certain circumstances. I'm not going to completely tell you anything. It's completely up to you. Everyone has their own choice. So I'm just telling you, though, from the physical aspect, what happens in the body. And I've been kind of sharing this information with you because when you look at the multidimensional body, you can clearly see the disconnects between the higher self and the physical. Clearly, you see the disconnect and the dissonance that occurs, that is reflected in your quality of life. So if you're tired, sick, unsure, not trusting, not integrating, not activating into your higher self, it's because our life force is redirected and bled out through the wrong things that aren't cultivating your life force. And it's completely our responsibility, your responsibility. So essentially, when we talk about cultivating primordial life force, the sexual energy, how we direct this life force, how we procreate, now no longer becomes the sustainability of the matrix. The true sovereign organism, the true sovereign human, can become a potent co-creator. Not only do all of their actions align with higher expression, higher octave of vibrational frequency, but the children that they are bringing into the world are super fast spinning, activated DNA consciousness that allows our lineages to pull forward. Okay. So everyone can kind of participate in this. Now, the co-creation that occurs without bearing children is also extremely important, because you can choose to end certain bloodlines. And I'll do another video on bloodlines and having children, not having children as a choice, because there's some implications to that that have to be understood. Um, but the utilization of our primordial life force, when we begin to bring that up the spine and transmute that life force, we essentially utilize that primordial life force, which is one of the most potent energies of creation. It's packed with enough energy that the stars are made up of. Okay, when stars collide, that collision creates iron. We have that ability and that function in a micro manner when we conceive. Can you believe that? And we are constantly utilizing that same potent life force inside the body when we are generating and producing blood that flows through our bodies. So the amount of life force that this body has is unbelievable. It is more powerful than the sun. Okay, the sun produces life force, but this creative life force transcends that. Our sun is very small in terms of the amount of power that it can hold, and the life force that each human has is amazing. And I like to think of when you hold a baby. I don't know when the last time was that you held a baby, but the last time, or if you ever hold a baby, you begin to see the amount of energy that these children have. And this is where more parasitic programs utilize that energy and in inversion in a parasitic manner, because it's pure primordial life force in its essence. We can produce that life force in our bodies to grow telomeres, to create longevity, healing. That's why sexual energy can be healing for the body. We can utilize that sexual energy and direct it to parts of the body that are damaged, that are hurt, that are everything from cancer to diseases to flus to cuts in your body or injuries. You can absorb that life force and learn how to redirect it through the intelligence system, and it will heal your body. Because now we're not just talking about when we think about sex, we're thinking about, the, very primal act of sex. But what I'm talking about is creative life force. Okay. That life force. And it's very sad when we look at our society. In a way, it can be sad. It can be, it's a neutral thing, really. But it's interesting when we look at our society and we look at how sex has been inverted into something impure, into something animalistic, into something that is only focusing on pleasure, which isn't even pleasure. It's a very limited perception of pleasure, actually. The orgasm, having an orgasm, is the highest high that we know of in this physical matrix, right? But that's not it. There is something way beyond that. And we can reach that by cultivating this life force energy in the body in order to have full body orgasms. And the purpose of that is not the pleasure part of it. The purpose of it is the potent generation of life force that we are creating in the body, co-creation, and the embodiment of source, that when you enter into that vibrational state, you are basically a conduit for source consciousness in through your body. That's why in healing sessions, what those of you that are not familiar with love or with peace, when you begin to train yourself to feel peace and feel love, it begins to feel like bliss. All of our society is highly programmed to be sexualized and to misuse sexual energy, because this system knows that when you take that most important element of unconditional love and turn it upside down, you can destroy a human race. You can sever their connection to source. So this is where we're at right now. When we repair our understanding of this sexual primordial life force, this is where we begin to remember what source feels like. It is all and nothing simultaneously. So we have the ability of cultivating this life force within the body. And this is what these practices are for. It's the ability to utilize these energies. And even though the primordial sexual energy is, one of the most powerful, it's not our only source. We learn how to bring life force from nature. We can go into nature and absorb life force into the body and heal the body just the same. But as I mentioned, we use this energy to heal the earth as well. Okay. So this is now the new human that we talk about. The new human that has activated intuitive abilities, is interconnected with the truths of the entire world, and is behaving in a way that is mature. It's a level of spiritual maturity that transcends any kind of new age concepts that you can ever think of, because now we're talking about taking absolute responsibility for your participation as a vibrational frequency in everything that you're co-creating. And this is something that does require a very high level of self-awareness and self-love, self-compassion, in order to utilize this in a manner that we can heal the body. Okay, so how we are going to work with this energy today is that we're going to I will probably have to host a separate session, more private, secluded sessions to host some of these trainings, because this kind of work is something that has to be taken time, and it's something that has to be handled carefully, because it is a potent life force. And if we don't refine this primordial life force from all of its limiting belief systems and imbalanced aspects, it's going to be difficult for you to rise that life force into the body. So that's why the emotional work that I teach, 30-day challenge, uh, self-love challenge, all of those are steps building into this work. And it's one of many things. So it's not that this sexual transmutation is the end all, the only thing we have to achieve. No, it's just one of many things. But it is an important tool, because in the spiritual community, we sometimes are confused about the role that sex plays. I know that in my early journey, I didn't understand, what role did that play exactly, and how do we utilize this energy? How do we know, even mindful partnerships, co-creations, how does one know how to utilize that for your spiritual ascension? Because the whole dynamic of relationships, when you're tied to the matrix, is very karmic. And we have these illusions and ideas of marriage and relationships that are, one for a lifetime. But, that's not the way this natural cycles function. When we think about ourselves as ever evolving conscious beings, you cannot tie a person down to you when you are evolving. You have to mindfully, and as a result of free will, allow this other partner to raise at the same level of evolution as you, or not. And this is where unconditional love is the role that true love allows all beings no harm, and allows all beings to live sovereignty and in their highest expression, whatever expression that might be. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go into the chat. I'm going to answer some questions, and we're going to get started. Hi, everyone. Serena, wow, it's just going to check if you're live. Yes. Hello, Norma. Hello, Fidel. Hello, Brooke. Asaf, so wonderful to see you. Christina Anders, hello, welcome. Doug, so wonderful to see you. Welcome. Just Stick, salutations, welcome. Brown Dwarf, welcome. Um, Shoban, I always forget how to say your name, right? Welcome, my love. Thank you so much for being here. It's so wonderful to see you. Anders, the law of one talks about how we go from lower density to higher densities, but I think that's about higher vibrations, resulting in more information capacity, like pixel densities on a computer screen. Interesting. Well, I will say something that I was thinking about earlier today, um, in preparation for this conversation, that, how we understand dimensions for us, are the best way to understand dimensions is by going down to the macro. So if you take this microphone and you put it under a microscope, I mean, it's like an entire world opens up to you, an entire universe opens up to you of living organisms, little microbes, and then you keep going down into the next dimension. It's even more worlds within worlds, right, until you get to the molecular level of something. But even then, that is a wonderful way for us to understand what happens to us when we access high vibrational frequency. When we go up to high vibrations, we essentially dematerialize, right? We're no longer the physical body. We end up being life force. And life force essentially is a dematerialization, which can only be seen through a microscope, through these infinite dimensions that we're able to see, because you now see the nucleus of something, electrons, protons of something that make up that essence of vibrational frequency. So this is really what we become. We dematerialize. We leave the physical body to be interdimensional. When you come into that 0 point, that's why it's so important to come into the 0 point that allows you to become zero. You dematerialize and you allow yourself to navigate any dimensional plane at that point. So this is what we're doing when we're working on these levels, and we're learning how to do that. Becoming lucid in dream time means that we bring the conscious element into that dematerialized form that manifests into all kinds of imageries and dimensions that are translating the navigation of those dimensions. Mark, welcome. Rocking my world right now. Awesome. Just stick. Welcome. What world? Question. Are there still fractal fragments of our soul in our parallel lifetimes in which we've already died? Yeah, so every single lifetime that we have will have will be more embedded with certain programs and an overall theme. Okay. That's why when you do your shadow work, it's going to feel like a lot at first. But once you understand that all of your fractals are simply choosing between love and fear, it begins to simplify. And you begin to see patterns and patterns and patterns of the same thing, just different scenarios, different people, different age stages of your life. We are all cycling through that same lesson over and over again. It's the same when you begin to look at past lives, future lives, simultaneous lives, that you begin to discover those themes in those lives that interconnect with the life that you have now. And you can also deprogram from there any programs of separation, okay? Because you are in the third dimensional plane for duality, you are learning how to come from separation, duality, into unity, one, wholeness, as the all, okay? So that's essentially what we're doing. And yes, we reintegrate the fractals, of these parallel lives, but it's not like you're going to see them the same way that you're doing it here. The life that you access in that parallel life will be the fractal that needs to be addressed. Because now when you look back at parallel lives, you only see the main fractals. Those are the only ones that are being shown to you. They're the ones that are experiencing important events that fractalize them, because they become reference points. Okay, remember I mentioned that when you have a trauma, you create an energetic point in your field. It becomes a reference point. So that reference trauma point that you created in your next life, if you reincarnate again with a similar pattern, you're going to access that point, that trauma point of that little girl that went through some trauma. That's what you will pick up from your past life. So this is how we carry on the patterns over through all our lives. Question: would it be possible to reverse aging or just arrest aging? I've experienced being able to reverse aging anytime that I begin to come back into alignment, into my highest expression, healthy, vitality, joy, love, integration, 0 point, you can reverse aging. But it depends how far down you went the path. Okay, so a lot of people that are seeped in sorrow and depression for many years have caused a lot of havoc on their poor little bodies. Okay, so it takes a lot of work to repair by sustaining patterns that are regenerative. It has to be, all the focus has to go on regenerating and cultivating life force. But yes, a lot of these Asian cultures focus a lot on the cultivation of life force. Qigong is taught at a very early age, and they utilize that. And the way that they age is amazing. They have one of the lowest rates of illnesses in their elders and deaths by severe illnesses in the whole world. So when we begin to look at these numbers and the way that people are aging in these ancient cultures that are focused on preserving life force, you begin to see the results there. So these are things that we can tune into and begin to apply to our life. Anders, welcome, Blue Cruise. So great to see you. Thank you so much. Anders, what does it mean that Kundalini is trapped at the base of the spine? And is Kundalini the same as sexual energy, or is Kundalini more than that? Kundalini simply means life force. Okay, so we have Kundalini all over the body. It's not just the root Kundalini that is rising. All chakras have to rise into a higher vibration. When they rise, they begin to reintegrate. The lower dantian integrates, the middle dantian integrates, the higher dantian integrates, and then it becomes one as it opens the channels for the whole body to begin to receive higher octaves of frequency. So when we have trapped Kundalini energy, depending on who said that or what they were referring to, essentially would mean that the root chakra is storing, usually the back of the root chakra is stagnant. This is subconscious programs that inhibit the ability to move life force. Now, the perineum, which is the space in between the anus and the sexual organ, is also one of the most powerful areas that we condense and store trauma body energy and don't move life force there. And it's actually one of the biggest blocks in addition to the crown. Okay, so the perineum and the crown, both these that open up the middle meridian line of the body, block the ability to integrate higher octaves of frequency through the body. So that's why a lot of people that have sexual trauma, people that haven't released fear-based programs, and we saw a lot of activation of blockage in the perineum over the past couple years, which is why I chose to do this challenge. But it's blocked because we've been in survival. We've been so confused, so fearful. And this really brings the body completely out of balance. So we have to actively bring ourselves back into a balanced state of existing. Okay. So yeah, and then Kundalini, sexual energy, is directly pulling the energy from the ovaries in the female and the balls in the male. Okay, so we are, you know, how we do breathing through the organs, through the sexual organs, you are bringing that primordial life force into your body. So it's different than those two systems of energy. And we need to be very clear about that, because when you're getting to the details of this work, you know, it depends what you're pulling up. If some of you are pulling only from the dense root chakra, you're not going to be pulling up very much, because if you haven't been clearing that, you're not going to be pulling anything up. So it's the sexual energy that becomes refined as a result of the emotional healing that you do in the chakra. and in the entire meridian systems of your body. That's how that sexual energy, because again, sexual energy is the blueprint, the DNA code that is jam-packed with all of your essence, all the information of everything. Emotions, present life, past life, future life, everything is in that code. So that becomes refined with the shadow work that you do, essentially. That's right. Love, love, love. Mark says, you are one of the most profound poets. Wow, thank you. I appreciate that. That's beautiful. Brown dwarf makes sense. Shoban says, I was just going to ask about sexual depletion for women versus blood loss. Yes. And I'm going to do an entire video on that because it's really interesting. Because it has to do with our hormonal levels. Remember, our hormonal levels are a direct result of how our endocrine system is processing chemicals in the body. And it also has a lot to do with our biome. And those of you that are deeply connected to moon cycle is a great way to look at how waters of the world are either expanding or contracting, and they do affect the feminine a lot in there. That's why it's called a moon cycle, a cycle, um, because depending on the growth of the moon, whether the moon is in crescent or whether it's a new moon, it will affect the way that life force is flowing through the body. And I will explain that in another video. But it has a lot to do with women's blood levels, women's hormonal levels, energy levels. If you're constantly lethargic or sick, all of that is interconnected. How is deer exercises for women? Yes. Anders says, I heard that menstrual blood is used in esoteric rituals, at least in the ancient past. Yes, they are. And there are very heavy ties to that because again, menstrual blood is what is being released from the body in order to let go of this life force. And it's encoded with information of the person releasing that. And this can be pretty heavy. So anytime that we use blood rituals, anything like that, I don't practice in any or know any of that very much, but I have seen my clients that have utilized those things, and the way that it affects the multidimensional body is severe. Because anytime that we employ black magic, dark magic, any inversion of nature, okay, anything that has to go out is going out for a reason. It needs to deplete. Anything that is going in has to come in. It's nourishing. These are life forces. We have to understand and respect the natural ebb and flow of life and death. Those that utilize death to create life, they're not creating life, they're creating zombies, which is a disconnected from source, from natural regeneration cycles. So these are some things that we have to pay attention to because those are deep, deep, and they create really, really heavy cords, not only with the people that are being involved in these practices, but with Mother Earth, because they have to use elements of ley lines in order to connect these energies. So there's a lot of karma. And there are some countries in this world that utilize these tools more than others. And you can tell by the state of their economy, by the state of their wealth management, the way that they manage feminine and masculine life force in the culture of these countries. It is a direct reflection of how they utilize and invert natural life forces. So those ancient cultures are very well known. Yeah, I'll talk about that some other time. There's also more to that. But Cedric, what advice can you give to remain in present moment awareness to resolve fear, doubt, sadness, and anger of whatever else causes us to live in the past? I mean, I've talked a lot about that on this channel, I think in general. Um, I mean, just to make it simple, I think it really just comes down to self-love and compassion for yourself, because anytime that we are in the past or in the future and we are in these emotions, we're causing ourselves counter creation. And I guess it's because of our lack of awareness of what that means and the implications of that, that don't only just affect you, they affect your entire lineage, they affect your family, anyone that's interconnected with you directly, is being affected by that. So I guess if I would say it really just depends on the level of maturity of the individual. And this is spiritual maturity, right? Now that you have all the tools, all the information, are you applying it into wisdom? And are you compassionate of yourself in such a way that you hold yourself in careful uh, awareness of how powerful you are? You know, you're incredibly powerful, but we forget that, becomes so severed with the illusion. Because it's in the past, because it's in the future, it's not real. You are fantasizing something. It does not exist in this present moment. So you're living in a fantasy. So to snap out of that fantasy and to be able to come into the present moment is the most mature, responsible, healthy thing for the human to do, essentially. So that's one way I would put it. But I have lots of tools in as well as GPAC, grounding, protecting, aligning, co-creating. You really start working with your energetic body, and also resolve the trauma. Resolve the trauma. What's keeping you in the past? Okay. If you don't resolve it, if you don't look at what you can't accept, there are things that we haven't accepted. What haven't we accepted? Sit with those things that you're still keep going back to, and you must accept, work your through the acceptance, nurture yourself through the acceptance, broaden your perspective from this myopic view of suffering, victimization, into a broader view of a collective whole. And you will be able to leave from that limited stagnation that we have come into, in order to be able to be in the present moment, logically, emotionally, multidimensionally. Your entire body will agree, yes, the present moment is the best place to be, because back there, it's not really true. My suffering is a temporary illusion, temporary perception that isn't really part of the whole truth. So that's the thing. We also lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves that we are victims, that we're stuck and helpless in that victimization, and we believe that as truth, but it's only one part of a truth. There is not one absolute truth. There are many that we have to kind of work through. Okay, so that's something, that a couple things I would mention. Hi, Geraldine. What would be another example of parasitic depletion of life force for women? Okay, I'm going to talk about life force depletion tomorrow. We're going to talk all about it, every single possible depletion available. But just to quickly mention, for women and for men, it's about your use of emotions. This is where our depletion mostly comes. For women, it's the overuse or imbalanced or wounded emotional expression, uh, generally speaking, because there's both. Um, and for the wounded masculine, it's the suppression of emotions. I'm not talking about sexes, I'm talking about feminine energy and masculine energy. Wounded feminine, we are not balancing this emotions. It becomes codependent, it becomes manipulative, it becomes painful, all that. The wounded masculine is the suppression, the other side of the scale. They don't want to acknowledge the emotions. They don't want to feel the emotion. They are afraid of the emotions. Both of them are fearful of truth. So how we deplete life force is any time that we are not living in our absolute authenticity, our absolute truth. Anytime we are practicing inversions of nature, of what is in its most natural balance, we are inverting and depleting our life force. So this would be another example of that. And there are many more that I can talk about tomorrow. Samantha, my head has been hurting behind right ear only for a few days. Has this been happening to anyone else? I don't know. Brown dwarf, supercharged babies. Yes, that's correct. No wonder nanotech feeds on the iron in the blood. That's true. Yes. Today was the first time ever I had an awesome morning meditation. Midday, my evening, I figured out how to use the breath in meditation. My body turned into energy in space. It felt electric and magnetic. Wow, that's amazing, John. Beautiful. Marcelo, hi, so great to see you. Rockers, Los Angeles says, I'm breaking up with my girl to save my life force. Thanks, Geraldine. Okay, that's I'm hoping is in alignment with your highest expression, my love. Brown Dwarf agreed. Darina Yardova question, if we choose to not have sexual activity for the time being, can we still cultivate it? Absolutely. Absolutely. The cultivation of life force does not require a partner. We can do it in ourselves. And there's two ways to do it. Either the what is known as the ascetic path, which is the person that cultivates their own and becomes celibate, or the one that cultivates the life force with a partner. Both can be utilized, and you don't need the partner to do it. Babies, pure energy aren't contaminated by certain external forces. Well, kind of. They begin though. They begin since the womb. They start, doing some stuff. So there's many beliefs about ejaculation. It's not just about ejaculation, it's about how you use the life force. MS Malak. Okay. And also I would be very, very mindful of messages that invert truths. I think that it's important to discern information. Please take everything as a grain of salt and experience it for yourself to see what works for you. I noticed that a lot of people that channel information, you have to be very careful what you hear, what you listen to, dissect, and the only way you're going to know what you're listening to is true or applicable to you is by experiencing and exploring yourself. So you have to see what is in alignment best for you. It's not about the ejaculation, it's about how you use the life force. It's the allocation of your life force that's really important. Is your Venusian says, is your life force affected when you are raped or molested? The life force itself is always available to you through your body. However, those that have karmically manifested sexual abuse in this lifetime is a result of several lifetimes of the suppression of sexual life force and misuse of sexual life force, many lifetimes. So in this lifetime, as we are experiencing these severe, uh, uh, disturbances of our boundaries, uh, we can regenerate, we can heal, and there's a lot of healing that has to occur in regards to the feminine and masculine. The key is to come into sovereign empowerment, really powerful empowerment, and to master your sexual energy. Nothing becomes destroyed. You can never become destroyed. The body will always regenerate. The body will always heal. This is the intelligence of this organism. And because you are infinite life force, nobody can take your life force away unless you allow it. So, these are sensitive topics. And I've spent a lot of time working with many survivors of sexual abuse. And it's something that I understand very deeply and personally. And it's something that once we understand the dynamic of disagreement, we can really heal and regenerate and change the life in a very positive manner. But it is the darkest magic that is utilized in this earth. But what I mean by magic is utilization of or inversion of life force. The way that you fractalize a soul is by abusing them with their sexual energy. And when we incarnate in this earth, we kind of make an agreement to become fractalized through our sexual energy. Because as you know, in this matrix, so much of our world is driven by the manipulation of sex. And it's in ways that you don't even realize. It's in the car sales ad, the food ad, it's in the way that you choose your college degree, the way that you choose your partner, the way that you dress, the way that you speak, the way that you behave, the roles of your sex, whether you're a man or a woman, what role you're playing, it plays a huge role in all of these potential areas of your expression. So the manipulation of that causes cycles of suffering, unconscious suffering. So these are things that we are learning how to regenerate. Love versus sex is curious. For example, we say unconditional love, but we usually don't say unconditional sex, right? And really, the core of sex is essentially to love unconditionally, and I will explain that on this week, later on this week, um, about how that works and how coherence plays a big role in that. JJ, welcome. Knowing we have the power of supernova stars, no wonder they cover up the parthenogenesis and divine feminine gnosis and teachings. Exactly. Parthenogenesis is exactly what that's about, because parthenogenesis means that we create, that we germinate our own seed, our own egg internally in order to create life. This is where the virgin birth comes from, and essentially has a huge role in the hybridization program. So yeah, we'll talk about that some other time. Hello, Vicky. Scott, I will tackle that question later on this week. Yes. Very intrigued with the workshop on the endings of bloodlines. All right. Sierra, I rent and I feel that people who live upstairs are lower vibration and I have to deal with their inconsiderate noises, stomping, etc. How do I protect my energy? The best way to protect your energy is by coming into neutrality and coming into unconditional love, essentially. Because this neutral state will allow it to no longer trigger the depletion of your life force. This is where your attention has to go. How's your energy doing? Don't worry about what they're doing. What about your energy? Who's protecting Sierra, right? Who's taking care of her life force? So we have to become our own protector and our own owner of our space. Bob Rules 77, how do we get to the depths of our scorpionic energies without ending up misusing the life force or depleting it? So this is really about understanding what sexual energy is, essentially. Okay, when you understand what I explained earlier today, that it is about pure potent life force creation. It kind of takes it in a different direction of how you utilize it. And the idea is to be mindful of whether you utilize it only for pleasure, because that pleasure is just the sensory body, temporary, but there are higher octaves that you can reach that you don't, if you're going to do it for that, then these kinds of cultivations of life force are also geared to help you cultivate that. And the best teacher of that is Montauk Chia, that I would well, one of the best. There are also other older teachers in Taoist studies that also talk about that. And so if you are interested in learning more of that, you can sign up for some courses to learn under him. But I think, and I don't think Montauk Chia totally goes into all of the lessons of how to purify life force, especially in some of his books. They don't explain how to do that all the way. I think it's really important that you learn how to refine your life force before you start doing some of these practices, because otherwise you can create imbalances in your body. Okay. And it is a sensitive thing. Um, so yeah. Angelina says, this information is amazing. Thank you, Geraldine. I have been having amazing transformations and my visual senses has kicked in. I'm traveling into different dimensions at night. It's so amazing. Yes, awesome, Angelina. I'm so happy to hear that. G, do you still momentarily experience regrets even at your level of self-realization, or 0 point cannot have regrets? And are we where we should be, meaning is that what was meant to be? Absolutely. I've never really experienced regrets most of my life for some reason, personally. I think that regret is a is really being in denial of your journey and everything that you have experienced in your life. I think more people experience self-hate and self-judgment um, at the root of regret. And that's actually where the work has to be focused on. So, do you build resentment towards yourself because you're not congruent with yourself, because you lie to yourself, because you betray yourself, because keep choosing your comfort zone instead of breaking out into something that is more co-creative? Those things over time create resentment, mistrust with yourself, essentially anger, and sometimes hate towards yourself. And it makes it very difficult for you to love yourself. So these are things that have to be healed and addressed and looked at in order to be able to love yourself fully and unconditionally. So, then regret doesn't really come into the picture because, somebody that is living in the present moment and congruent is always choosing consciously, even things that we think are negative. And remember, even when you get to a highest state of awareness, doesn't mean you're free from negative experiences. You're always ever evolving. Peace is something that is built internally and cultivated internally. It's not something that's created by the external matrix. So we are constantly learning how to come back to 0 point in all potential experiences. And that will move you away from emotions like regrets and things like that. Hello, Lady Geraldine. Beautiful words, extremely synergistic and activating. Great for your teachings. Thank you so much. Just waking up. So past and future lives would be like timelines that we can then transmute. So yes, what's being transmuted is the life force that was stagnant in that memory. But essentially what you're doing to the fractal is you're becoming one with it. You're bringing your consciousness through that fractal. You're making it conscious. That's actually what's actually happening. All right, my love. Let me see if I have any questions. Marcelo says some remote viewer said this planet is being run like a prison for souls. I don't want to get too off topic, but what's your take on this? So, my view on this, and it's a view that I came into pretty early on, um, even as a result of the hybridization program and experiencing parasitic interdimensional activity. What I realized is that we live in an intelligence that transcends our understanding. The natural organic intelligence of this multiverse, the morphogenetic field, doesn't work in ways that create imbalance. If things were out of balance, it would dissolve eventually. And things do dissolve when they need to dissolve at the time that they need to dissolve. But this world, let's say this planet Earth that we live on, there is a parasitic element to it, but we experience parasitism and light in cycles. And we've been experiencing that for cycles and cycles and cycles and cycles, as many times as we exist simultaneously. So I no longer take a look at these parasitic beings, whether there's reptilians, draconians, whether it's grays, whether it's the government, the shadow government, whatever it is these beings are doing to manipulate, to implement control tactics of whatever, they are a direct reflection of what we hold internally, because the matrix is us and we are the matrix. And when we understand that we're the matrix, we transcend it. So this is not a prison planet. That only prison can occur when you think that you are imprisoned and you are living in it from the perspective of victim helpless mentality, and you've given your power away. Because you are life force, life force cannot be contained, it cannot be eliminated. This is the laws of free will state that any organism that comes into its conscious awareness of itself has the ability to choose what it's doing. And this works in all organic states. Brooke Prussian, Hi again. Question: is there a book you can recommend to learn more about the different dimensions, such as how to access 9th dimension or 21 dimension? A book that I can recommend. I was recently at JJ Hertag and Desiree Hertag's Easter presentation, and they do it every year. His presentation on the higher dimensions was extremely similar to what I saw and what I teach and what I see in the multidimensional body in the field. I would recommend his work. He's incredible. And his perspective is from I guess a Judaic background, which is wonderful. I don't resonate with some of the limitations that some of these religious influences can place on some of this information. But I do think that his information is amazing, and I would check that out, and I would read the book that he has on that. I believe it's the Oversoul Awakening or the Keys of Enoch. I participate in their group sometimes, and they're always super high level. So I would check his work out. I also would check out Dan Winter, which I always recommend. I love him. He's a dear colleague. And his work on the dimensional levels and how they are expressed from the physics perspective is excellent. And it's exactly the way I see it too, multidimensionally in the bodies and how I work with people. Another source, let me think. There's not too many people that talk about the higher dimensions, I guess. But if anybody else in chat has any suggestions that they want to recommend based on what we've talked about, please feel free to put it in there for Brooke. And I'm also interested to see what you have read and looked at. Anders, also think we are meant to develop light bodies. And if we only extend our physical lifespan, we can remain stuck in 3D, I guess. That's right, Anders. You got it. I hope I can regenerate after so much traumatic blood loss last year. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Hello, Julie. Great to see you. Jane. Okay. All right, guys. Enough questions. So many amazing questions. But you know what? We're going to start working on the meditation, guys. Otherwise, it's going to get very late. Siobhan, thank you so much for that incredible super chat. Love you. Unconditional love. Your super chats help me keep this channel free, everything content free and supporting. So thank you. All right. So let's get started, guys. I want you to inhale deeply. You're going to ground down to the center of the earth. You're going to close the first chakra, shrinking it down to the size of a dime. Going up to the sacral. Shrinking it down to the size of a dime. Going up to the solar plexus. Shrinking it down to the size of a dime. You're going to go up into the heart. Inhaling deeply, expanding the heart chakra, opening the center for coherence. You're going to go up into the throat. Go ahead and expand the throat chakra, activating the center of communication and expression. Inhale deeply and exhale. You're going to go up into the third eye. Go ahead and expand your third eye. You're going to go up into the seventh and the eighth. Activate your crown. Fill it in with your creative color. Go ahead and bring up healing life force up into the vortex, creating a vortex of life force all around you. From source, go ahead and pull down cosmic energy, bring down from source, combining with the earth energy. You're going to take 10% of that, send it back down to the center of the earth. Channel cosmic energy through your body. You're going to take 80% of that, send it up your spine, coating the outside of your field. Go ahead and visualize as you coat the outside of your field. Calling back your life force into the body as you inhale and exhale. Go ahead and take that final 10% and you're going to bring it inside the body. Pulling it into the pores, the flesh, the muscles, the bones, down to the cellular level. Transforming any death into life. Breathing. And as you run this energy through the 3 dimensions of your body, you begin to become a channel, a conduit of life force. I want you to take a look at your karmic contracts. Go ahead and see a room full of contracts. You're going to shine your crown light on top of them. And you're going to dissolve them. As you clear those karmic contracts, and you empty out that room, fill it in with your creative color. Breathing. Okay. So I want you to take your attention down to the sexual organs. And for now, we're just going to infuse golden life force into the sexual organs. I want you to connect with them and go ahead and allow yourself to release any kind of stagnant energy, any fears, any anxieties, any doubts. I want you to just tune into the emotions that are stored here within the organs. Go ahead and observe. What do you see? And as you're observing, just observe the thoughts and the emotions that are triggered by connecting to this part of your body. What are some of the programs, the stagnant belief systems that are here? Just take a look at, where do they come from? Where have we inherited them from? Taking a look at your relationship with creation. Do you believe that you can create life? That you can create what you want, what you need? Do you believe that you can manifest? And if you don't, why? Where did these belief systems come from? Take a look at that. Notice any triggers of anxiety, fears that begin to ignite in the body. I want you to sit with those uncomfortable emotions that come up when you think of this life force, when you think of creation. I want you to be absolutely present with it. What is the core belief behind this emotion? Take a look at it. If you don't know right away, sit with the emotion and let the emotion tell you. The longer you sit with it, you're going to unpack emotions inside there. Notice how it always comes back to you. Is this doubt that you have in yourself? Is it fears that you have about yourself? Angers, emotions that you feel towards yourself, judgments? Take a look at that. And then the longer that you sit with the uncomfortable emotions, you'll see that the easier they begin to subside. They tell you everything that they need to tell you as you sit with these emotions. in the body. Just observe if any of these programs and belief systems are self imposed, self created, and self supported. What's your contribution to these belief systems? How much of your life is spent supporting these belief systems? Observe your life. Observe the choices of your life. Without judgment, just observing compassionately and lovingly. The more you learn about yourself, the more you become free from your own judgment and the judgment of others. The more you become sovereign, and nothing can have power over you. The more you know yourself. So just observe all of these difficult, uncomfortable things that you are discovering within your sexual organs tells you a lot about what controls you, your life, your intentions, your desires. And begin to observe any strong emotions that we have or judgments that we have towards our desires. What is at the core root of our desires? What is it that the soul wants? And what is it that the ego wants? Who is desiring? Take a look at that. You may notice that the soul does not desire anything. The soul is everything. And I want you to tune in with that feeling of being everything. This is the core of primordial life force. So as you begin to feel that sense of becoming everything and nothing simultaneously, this is where infinite potential begins to become available to the human. You begin to see how the human can manifest anything when it becomes all and nothing. And you also begin to see the contrast of how desires play out in the human expression. This is where we begin to correct any false inversions of the concept of following your bliss. Which bliss? The bliss of the ego or the bliss of the soul? They're different. The bliss of the body or the bliss of the higher collective whole? It's the difference between the physical orgasm and the universal orgasm. Breathing deeply. As you begin to observe all the fractals of yourself that have been suppressed, these belief systems, fears, anxieties within the organs, go ahead and provide them the healing, the expansion that they require in order to be able to access that infinite potential. How do your beliefs have to change in order to access this infinite potential? To begin to realize that you are the core source of love, the generator, the creator, and the cultivator. Breathing. Go ahead and take a look at all the contracts. You're going to visualize a pile of contracts in front of you. These piles of contracts represent all of the limiting beliefs, heavy, dense emotions, inversions of nature that we embody and that we store in the sexual organs, in the creative centers of our whole body. Because it's not just the organs, it's an entire interconnected network. Go ahead and see those contracts in front of you. Are you ready to let them go? If you're ready to let them go ahead and shine your crown light on top of them, dissolving them, neutralizing them with your wisdom that you just acquired. And as you bring yourself now to take a look at all of the fractals of yourself that have been trapped in these belief systems, observe them. What do they look like? What do they look like physically? Are they expansive, confident, joyful, loving, creative? Or are they contracted, shattered, damaged, frail, contracting? I want you to surround all of these fractals of yourself, and I want you to nourish them. Nourish them with this white light that is the whole spectrum of every range of emotion, color, and potential experience so that they can become one, so that they are fulfilled and their perception becomes balanced as the whole. Go ahead and see that. And as you see your fractals beginning to heal and reintegrate, you begin to feel the adjustments in your physical body. Notice the parts of your body that begin to feel more comfortable, more loose, more open, more expansive. You are healing your morphogenetic field. You're healing and you're working in your multidimensional body right now. This is how powerful this work can be. So I want you to see your fractals, and I want you to inhale deeply, taking this healed fractal of yourself into your body now. As you integrate into the root, the sacral, solar, heart, throat, third eye. 7 bodies in, 7 bodies out, all charges down to 0, negative, infinite. As you allow yourself to integrate, I want you to bring a powerful white light of source down. And you're going to visualize that with your 2 hands, you're going to be creating an orb of golden light in front of you. So the white light turns into golden light in your hands. And as you pulsate this golden light in front of you, you begin to create this ball of energy. You're going to be moving this ball of energy from top to bottom and from bottom to top. And as you move this ball of energy, everything that you pull away from your body as you move the top is you releasing any stagnant life force from your body. Everything that you pull from bottom to top towards the inside of your body is what you're receiving. You're pulling from the earth fresh, clean energy into your body. So as you begin to see this orb of energy that you begin to rotate in front of you, I want you to grow that energy as you cultivate that life force. This energy is pulling from the infinite source all around you, and it's entering into your field as you rotate it. The energy, the ball of energy grows in its potence, moving, cultivating that life force. Every time that you turn this ball of life force, it becomes more potent, more concentrated. I want you to come into neutrality and begin to tune into that feeling of unconditional love. As you move this orb of life force, you're going to take some of that energy and you're going to pulsate it into the root chakra. Take that life force and pull it into the root chakra as you heal the root chakra. See that potent energy coming into the root chakra, reallocating, healing, adjusting, integrating the root chakra, releasing all imbalances and rebalancing the chakra. You're going to expand that golden light now into the sexual organs, infusing the sexual organs with unconditional love, with balance, with peace, with harmony, feeling that divinity, acceptance, safety. Visualize that golden life force coming all the way down into the perineum, into the back of the body, into the spine, into the pelvic bone, as it begins to crystallize in the body as healing life force. You're going to enter that life force into the hips, where we produce blood for the body, as it begins to generate into the meridian lines of the legs, into the thighs, down the feet, healing the body, going into the bone structure of the body, regenerating the bone marrow, going up now into the organs of the body. I want you to breathe deeply, pulling up that energy. That healing energy in from the sexual organs now goes up into the organs, into the internal organs, the large intestine, small intestine, spleen, pancreas, kidney, liver. As you begin to create and generate a cycle of life force through the organs. And these organs begin to create their own ball of energy internally. Go ahead and see that now. As you allow your organs to begin to generate this life force moving through the body, I want you to bring that orb of light again. You're going to cultivate another orb of light from source, and you're going to pull it into the sacral chakra. Go ahead and pull it into the sacral chakra. As you nourish the sacral chakra, go ahead and bring that life force into the sacral chakra, releasing any blockages, any fears, any anxieties. And as you begin to observe that this sacral chakra starts to absorb this life force and heal, releasing all the programs that we have of partnerships, relationships, anytime that our boundaries have been crossed, any times we participated or fell victim to unconscious exchanges with any other external. Go ahead and release those programs out of the body. Breathing deeply. Okay. Go ahead and infuse that into the organs, the kidneys, the liver, the heart, the spleen, the lungs now. You're going to go up into the solar plexus and you're going to bring that golden orb into the solar plexus now. You're going to go back to that golden orb and you're going to rotate that golden orb from top to bottom and bottom to top, rotating again. And I want you to pull it into the heart center. Nourish the heart center with this life force. You're going to create that orb of light again. Bring it into the throat. Nourish the throat. Notice how the throat might have been kind of ignited or triggered when you did the sacral and the solar. That's okay. It's because you're rebalancing and healing. So bring that into the throat chakra and watch your body come back into balance. Go ahead and create another orb, rotating top to bottom, bottom to top. And you're going to create that orb and bring it into the third eye, into the pineal gland. Okay, I want you to focus on the sexual organs now. The women are going to focus on the ovaries and the men on the testicles. And if women are menstruating, they're not going to participate in this part of the practice. So go ahead and gently visualize breathing gently, very gently, absorbing that life force up the body, up the spine, contracting the perineum, the pelvic floor. Gentle breath as you allow yourself to rise that life force, massaging the spine, going up the back, waking up the spinal cord, going up into the neck, going up into the brain and into the pineal gland, and gently holding that life force there for a moment. You're going to put the tongue to the palate of your mouth and allow that energy to just drop down the front of the body gently as it begins to cycle through the body. Breathing. And your posture will be very straight or laying down. Okay, so gently feel that beautiful rush of life force through the body. I want you to come into a feeling of unconditional love or neutrality. Okay, you're going to go back into the sexual organs and you're going to pull up that life force. The focus is on bringing up creative life force. Don't think about sexual energy. I want you to focus on life force, pure creative life force. Pull that up the spine. It's a refined form that you have now cleared through your multidimensional body. And as you pull it up the spine, up into the brain, into the pineal gland, tongue to the palate of the mouth, and allow that energy cycle to close through the front. Gently breathing. Okay. Once again, pulling up that life force, up, tensing the pelvic floor, pulling up the spine, massaging the spine up into the brain and down to the front of the body. Excellent work. Excellent work. You'll feel the rush of energy through your body. And I want you to direct this life force that you're running through your body to any part of the body that requires healing. You direct that life force to any part of the body that requires healing. So go ahead and create your orb of light once again, pulling clean energy out into the body and any dirty or stagnant energy out of the body constantly. And just go ahead and direct that orb into the part of the body that requires more attention, more healing at this time. You're going to feel yourself regenerating, waking up, becoming conscious, becoming aware of yourself. Very good. And as you allow yourself to now come in, going to focus on the root chakra at the base of the spine. Go ahead and open that root chakra gently back into a balanced state, 6 inches wide, front and back. Going to go up to the sacral. Going to go up to the solar. Going to go up to the heart. Going to go up to the throat, the third eye. Activate the 7th. Activate the 8th. Activate the 9th. Activate the 10th. The 11th. The 12th. The 13th. And above you is a powerful white light of source. Connect up into that source and anchor that source in through the crown of your head. You can open your chakras up to the 21st or 24th, wherever you feel comfortable. Do it mindfully, consciously, and with love. And as you anchor source light into your body, you have opened the channel runways of life force. I want you to anchor them down, creating a pillar of white light through your body, down through the perineum into the center of the earth, as you anchor that white life force into the earth. Very good. Go ahead and open your eyes and come back into the room. And I want to welcome you back. Thank you so much. You guys did amazing. I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's meditation. It has been such an honor to guide you and to work with you. You guys are really amazing. I'm so proud of you and all the work that you're doing. Thank you for your incredible questions. It is such an honor to hold space here. And if you have any questions that I haven't answered, please put them in caps so I can be sure I can answer them. Thank you so much, Shane and Gal, for being here, for connecting. It's such an honor to be here. The Ocean, welcome. Hello, Pono. Teresa, thank you so much for that super chat. That is so sweet. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. Yes, it is a lot of information. Fidel, thank you so much for that super chat. It really means a lot to me. I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. It is truly generous of you. Megan, thank you so much. Shoo, Geraldine, you're truly a Stargate. Cool. I love you guys so much. I hope that you guys benefit from this beauty. Thank you so much for that super chat. Really appreciate that. Ron, where is that currency from? RON. Pure character with lovely dovey eyes, blowing red hearts in the air. Oh, that's so cute. The pear character. Shoban, love you so much. Thank you. Have an incredible night, and I will see you tomorrow. All my love. Bye. Kieran, thank you so much. Much love to you. This is how says, my entire life has changed since the beginning of this challenge. Thank you for everything, Geraldine. Everyone, make sure you check out Downwinter. Yes. Wow. Thank you so much. I am so happy to hear that. This is how, what an amazing transformation and journey. Beauty, Romania, Transylvania, Saint Germain, love you. Yes. Love you, Romania. Thank you so much. And thank you for that super chat, Beauty. Love that. All right. I love you so much. Good night. Bye-bye.